Greetings again from South Carolina. This is David Gillespie, and this is our last video in the top series. Today we're going to be talking specifically about this top two-piece steel trim at the back of the two-door sedan. So let's get started. If you're just coming to this video, just know I've got other videos in this series that shows how I completely removed the wood, completely replaced the top fabric, and then did the drip rails, and then did the front molding as well. So I have separate videos for that. So look for those in the description below, please. Please like and subscribe and leave any comments below that you like as far as different ways or other ways to do this process. My great-grandfather owned two different Model A's and back in the 30s and 40s. And he would pump up his Model A's and Model T's at White Rose Gasoline nearby in Easley, South Carolina, and that has closed down over probably 70 years ago now, but so I'm a bit of a White Rose nut. Well, I'd like to thank Michael Eisenbice out of Texas for sending me this Ford stamped the spare tire cover. He knows I like any accessories, so thank you for that, Michael. So one of the cheapest things I took away from the two-piece steel molding on the back is you don't really need to make it, to pre-form it. In other words, I use the car itself as its own form. I'll show you that a little bit later, but I just always start at the center back and then start bending it around and use the car as its own mandrel, as its own form. I didn't need to pre-form it in any capacity, either piece. Just super helpful. So keep that in mind. Okay, for the back of the two-door sedan, you're going to need a two-piece trim like this. And from Smith & Jones in Columbia, South Carolina, the part number is A-47301-S. It's molding for this 28 to 31 steel top molding. So, number one thing to remember, do not snap these together. Keep them separate. If you snap them together, you'll waste all your money. Ask me how I know that. Okay, secondly, keep this in mind, that these two pieces will go together like this. So, make sure that you nail through this side like that. So this side will be up, and this will be on the touching the top of the car. That'll be on the bottom. So this is the proper way for it. This is the only way for it to snap together is like that. So we're going to start with this piece, and this is the top right here. Here we are on the rear of the two-door sedan, where, as you'll see in a previous video, I tacked these nails all along the rear here that conclude right in this area. So we're going to start at the center back with the trim. But first, I need to put down the rubber back of the two-door sedan now, and I've let it set out in the sun for about an hour, so everything is really hot and flexible. So I'm going to start putting the butyl rubber sealant on these nail heads here. Okay, I'm going to go back and smooth it later, but it's a good start now. Okay, I'm working my way around to the side here. Okay. So next I'm going to go along and just kind of smooth out this butyl rubber to get it ready for the trim. On the whole piece of trim, it's 72 inches long exactly. So I took a trusty tape measure and measured halfway. So we've got our halfway crow's foot right there. Also took the liberty to go ahead and write top on the top, so that way I don't get absent-minded. Taking a piece of masking tape and started at the center of the hub on the spare tire and just stuck it up there so I know where dead center is to line it up with the center of the trim. So next, while lifting up the extra flap here, I'm going to go and mark the nail holes where they're going in. I've already got the slots marked, so I know where to put my nails here. So each crow's foot represents the nail head, so I know what piece of the slot that I can use safely to nail in the piece. Right, so now first we have the center line of the back of the car. We have the nail head here and the slot here. So I'm going to set the trim right into the slot here, trying to minimize tar getting everywhere. And then trying to line it up here as best as I can. Just like that. So the screw nails, the head is too high up. I don't think the trim would fit over it. But this one does. And so what it is it's a wire nail, 16 gauge, and it's 1.25 inches long. And what I did was I used the drill bit to do a little pilot hole first. So I've got 2 nails in it, one at the dead center and one just off to the left. Now I'm going to pull one off to the right. Before I do that, I just want you to see that this is a stick of straight trim, and it needs to bend. So because I've got 2 fixed points now, I can start to kind of flex each piece one side to the other. So I'm going to start from here and try to bend it in and bend it as I nail it and use the body of the car as my template, Lord willing. Okay, so we've started with the nail in the middle and worked one to either side about 3 inches apart, and then another one about 3 inches apart, another one out to here. We're about to try to put one here. So of course, as we get toward the edge, the bending is getting a little bit more difficult, but so far so good. Starting to get that little bit of a bow in it now. Now comes the fun part. You can see now as we get along in this corner here, it's starting to want to roll up on us a little bit. So we're just going to try to work it as best we can. Using just a rubber mallet here to try to work it around. And it does seem to be helping. Now I'm not going to try to do a whole lot with it because I want the other piece of trim to fit inside of it. But for what it's worth, that does seem to help some. So as we get into this tight curve here, I'm using every nail hole that I can through this hard spot. And I've got Daddy here helping me to hold it while I'm drilling pilot holes. And some of the pilot holes I'm drilling are actually into the steel frame. It's just inevitable. And otherwise it wouldn't be able to fold down enough without quilting. So it is what it is. So as we're on the driver's side now, we had to make another hole or two here in places, but got Daddy bending it there. One nail hole at a time, and the worst of it about every 3/4 of an inch. So coming around the driver's side here, I've just kind of eyeballed the spot that's about 1/16 of an inch shy of coming back into this molding. So now I'm going to draw me a line with a Sharpie and start hacksawing that off there. So I got it a little bit shorter than I was hoping, but thankfully this piece of trim here, which went on the Model A's originally, will cover that. All right, so I have the nail channel down, and now we are ready to start the snap channel. This is the top snap channel that is steel as well, as far as I understand. So the first thing I did was measure. It's exactly 72 inches long, and I put a mark dead center at 36 inches. That way I know where center is once again. I think I'm going to try to take this snap channel and with a little bit of heat, try to anneal the end portion that needs it the most, and then come back and try to bend it. So here we go. Anneal the bottom 18 inches or so of each side, because that's where the worst of the curve is, and leave that part alone. And I'm going to use my map gas here to do that. Okay, so on the previous video, you'll remember I used the Sharpie marker to mark on it for the aluminum. This is not aluminum, this is steel. So I'm just going to try to get it to an orange hot and then let it cool down slowly. So no Sharpie needed. This is steel, not aluminum. So I'm just going to try to get it to a nice orange hot and then let it cool. Just working in 3-inch increments here and getting it orange hot and working my way down the line, as you can see. Okay, so now I went to both ends, 18 inches, 18 inches, and just heated it to a dull orange. Now I'm going to let it cool. I don't have enough ashes in my bucket to properly anneal it, so I'm hoping that this shop is going to be sufficient. There's no wind in here to cool it off too quick. But I've got my center line here and my center line here. Seems to be working better just to use the car itself as its own form and just kind of try fit it and cold form it around as I go. So I'm trying that right now. Snapping it in the middle here, using this file as my guide, and I'm just going to kind of work it with my hands and try to fold it around. It is snapped in the middle, and I'm just ever so lightly coming along and just trying to form it. First, I'm just trying to form it. I'm not necessarily trying to snap it, but as you can see, it's already around. And here and there, I'm using this rubber mallet to kind of encourage it a little bit more. To the other side. I don't have a way to hold it and film it, but just trust me, I'm sitting here taking this rubber mallet and with my fingers just forming it, and that is actually working better than anything. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just taking this rubber mallet and just using it to kind of lightly form it and snap it into that channel. I think the annealing it certainly helped to make it more flexible. Of course, I get down to the end, I'll have to cut it off. But look at there. Praise the Lord. So I cut this piece off here, and I'm just going to snap it into position. Okay. Okay, so next, I've got a little flat, or a little gloss black enamel, and I'm applying it with a paintbrush. Next here on the rear, I'm going to take my tube of butyl rubber and run it along this seam right here and make sure there's no voids or openings that can allow water in. The top will be sealed. So that's my first bead of butyl rubber there. Okay, now I'm just taking my pencil eraser and rubbing it through that seam of the butyl rubber. Glue gone. Squirt it onto a shop towel and just kind of wiping the excess off of the top rail here. More glue off. While the butyl rubber is still wet, I'll take a little of the glue off on this and just wipe it over the hole here. And that seems to be doing a little bit better. I'm sure there are better ways to do this, and if you know what they are, please leave them in the comments below for other people. This is just the way that I'm doing it. I just want to chiefly make sure that I get a good tight water seal. This car is not exactly a trailer queen. Yeah, I've actually found that this little piece of clay sculpting tool seems to do better for me, so I'm kind of working it with that while holding the phone. Okay, next I'm going to come along and tear off all this masking tape under here and prepare to start cutting this off. So next, with an old credit card, I'm just shoving underneath of here and taking this X-Acto knife blade and cutting right along the edge to get started. It's pretty raggedy, but it's the best I can do. Now, for the area where the drip rail comes into contact with the steel two-piece rail, you have this ugly area here. And you know this isn't a trailer queen, but I saw at the Mayfield Museum up in Hickory Corners, Michigan, a display that had these on it. So I found this part from Smith & Jones in Columbia, South Carolina. I'll leave a link in the description below. But from my understanding, it goes up just like that. And we'll nail in with one nail. And I don't think it was painted. I saw an original picture there at the Mayfield Museum. The original picture shows that it was left the bright steel color, so I'm going to do the same. So here is the piece, and here is the nail. I'm using one of those twist nails, and I've already got my pilot hole drilled so that fits through there. So I want to make sure as best as I can that it lines up with this piece here. This job wasn't perfect, but this isn't a trailer queen or a fine points restoration. I'm pleased with it. I hope it keeps water from rushing into the interior of the car. So if you've made it to this point of video, thank you for watching. Remember to see the other videos in this series, which I'll link in the description below, about the drip rail, the front trim, as well as the top fabric. So thank y'all for watching. It means a lot. Appreciate it.